Sometimes I am impressed by the breadth of the Torah, that is to say, how vast the actual Torah is, the Torah, the 24 books of the written Torah and their commentaries, and the vast amount of midrashim, and then you've got the Talmud, 20 volumes of the Babylonian Talmud and its commentaries, and the Jerusalem Talmud and its commentaries, and the Zohar and the Kabbalistic literature, and then you've got the Code of Jewish Law and all the commentaries. It's mind-boggling just how vast the Torah is, as it is described in the book of Mishlei, Proverbs, as wider than the sea, but it's also deep. And the depth also is something incredible. I'm looking at this week's Torah portion. Actually, it's two Torah portions this week, Behar and Bechukotai. And in the second of those, Bechukotai, the first verse, which basically says, in Bechukotai telechu, if you walk in my statutes and do them, and so on and so forth, seems like then I will give your rain in its time, and there's blessings, and so on and so forth. And it seems like a relatively straightforward, simple verse, until you start looking in the commentaries. And there are literally pages and pages of commentaries just on that verse. And I was looking at one, Rabbi Chaim ibn Attar, a great Moroccan rabbi of the 19th century, and Rabbi Chaim ibn Attar, or maybe 18th century, I don't remember offhand, and he has got 42 different explanations of that verse in his commentary. And he says, I'll give you a number of understandings of this verse, and he labels them 1, 2, 3, 42. In one of the commentaries, Rabbi Chaim ibn Attar, the Or HaChaim, has 42 commentaries on that one verse, and I'm not including all the commentaries that are printed on the page of the Mikros Gedolos, Rashi and Ramban, and the Seforno, and the Ibn Ezra, and the Baal HaTurim, and Rabbeinu Bachai, and the Kli Yakar, and so on and so forth, and in addition to all the commentaries that are not printed in the actual set of the 5 books of Moses that I have. It really is mind-boggling. It is both as Rechava Minayam, it is as wide as the sea, think of the Pacific, think of the Atlantic, and it's deep, think of the Marianas Deep Trench. And there's layers upon layers upon layers. A brief story, my teacher, Rabbi Moshe Shapiro, alav shalom, when he was a kid, he was playing outside a yeshiva in Israel called Ponevezh, very famous yeshiva in Bnei Brak. At the time, this is in the 1950s, it was in the early stages of the state of Israel. Often the electricity went out for no reason. Actually, for probably good reason, they probably ran out of gas, but electricity used to go out often, and there were all types of issues. Anyway, he's playing in the sand outside a window, and a relative of his, Rav Eliyahu Dessler, one of the great philosophers, Torah scholars of last century, was studying next to the window in Ponevezh, and he's playing just outside, and the electricity goes off. And Rabbi Dessler, plunged into complete darkness, recites the same statement of the sages that he was studying in the Talmud, just recites it again. And then he says it again. And he keeps saying the same statement over and over and over again. And Rabbi Moshe Shapiro, my teacher, he says, I remember even as a child that every time I heard Rav Dessler say that statement again, there was a different level and dimension of understanding that he had. The intonation, the phrasing, the pause, the volume, etc., etc. And he says, I understood then when I was a child that there's infinite depth to the Torah. And even in that one statement of the sages, which Rav Dessler was saying over and over again, my teacher, Rav Moshe Shapiro, understood that there was infinite depth. When we look at a verse in the Torah, we have to understand we're looking at a drop in the ocean of a vast ocean, but we also understand that we're looking at the surface of tremendous depth, and it is our obligation to try and plunge those depths to go deeper and deeper, a new dimension, a new idea every single time we look at it. This is Mordechai Becher with the Gateway's Parshat Vlog.